Yeah. Hey guys, Guy Jeans here with the Kern River Fly Shop podcast. Want to thank our sponsors, Reddington Fly Rods, Rio's Lines, Leaders and Tippets, and Sims Fishing Products. Also Costa Sunglasses. Got a cool show for you tonight. I got Alex Ramirez, who is the Sage, Reddington, and Rio rep. He also reps a few other products as well. And he is here, and I'm going to get him on the phone here in a second, but I want to talk to him about all the different things going on in the fly fishing world, especially in our area, the western United States, and talk to him about the state of the fly fishing industry, and also talk to him how he became a fly fishing rep and what it takes to be a fly fishing rep and that sort of thing. So let me see if I can get him on the phone, and we'll go from there. Alex.
Hey, Guy.
How's it going?
Going great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm so glad that we're able to finally get this podcast going, man. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, man. It's a privilege and honor. Yeah, thank you for having me.
I think the last time that we were on a podcast was your podcast, which is Beer, Fly Fishing, Food.
Yes. Yeah, we had you on. I think that could have been one of our second to the last ones we've done. We've taken quite a long break, but we actually have one set to record next week. We're getting back into it.
Sweet.
So just kind of life and busy and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back onto it. It's I've got a lot of good feedback, and yeah, appreciate having guests like you on. I mean, I think yours is one of the most listened to so far.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. A little shout out to Dave too, your partner.
Yeah, Dave, man. I can't wait to get him back on.
It was cool, man. Talking with you guys, because we talked about music and ska and all that stuff, and Dave was into that stuff, and so was I. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great. Actually, I just listened to that maybe about a couple of weeks ago, just to kind of get the juices flowing again. So that was the podcast I listened to, was one with you. Yeah, it was a good one. It was really good. Right
on. So you are the Farbanks rep, which is Sage, Rio, Reddington, and what other brands do you represent?
I represent about 11 different brands. I have Outcast float tubes. I got Fish Pond, Tibor fly reels, Rep Your Water. I was just hired by Grundens.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm really excited about. And another new company that's coming out with these high-end travel cases for guns as well as fly fishing for travel, and they're lockable cases that you can take. They're TSA approved. But yeah, I just got hired by that company, and High and Dry, it's a floating company. So fairly busy.
Wow. So 11 different companies that you represent. Mm-hmm. That's incredible.
Yeah, it can get pretty crazy, but it's fun. I enjoy it.
Well, I want to definitely talk about that for sure, about your sales repping job and what that takes and stuff. But what I'd like to do is kind of introduce everybody to you and where you're from, and how you got into fly fishing, and then ultimately how you ended up being a fly fishing rep. And I think I met you when you were working down at the SoCal Fly Fishing in San Diego, the fly shop down there that Peter Piccone owned. But anyway, let's get started with you and how you got into fishing and fly fishing and all that kind of stuff, and then kind of take it up to becoming a fly fishing rep.
Totally. Yeah. So I started fly fishing when I was 10 years old. I had grown up fishing. My parents would take an annual trip to the Sierras outside of Fresno ever since I was 2 years old. And, just as soon as I could hold a rod, I was fishing. And then I would say about 10 years old, there was a fly fisherman that was fishing an evening hatch, and we watched him just kind of rope fish in. And I was like, man, this guy is awesome. So we went over and we talked to this guy, and showing me these little PMDs that he was tying up. At the time, I had no clue. It was a white fly in my mind.
Yeah.
But he went back to his camp, and he pulled out his vise, and he tied us a couple flies, and just blown away. I'm like, man, this guy is super cool. And that off season, a buddy of mine who I fished with constantly growing up, one of my best friends, he he bought a fly rod, and we started to practice in his driveway. And then I got one, and it was something that we would just kind of do off and on. We would only do it at night or in the evening or early morning when there was a hatch, because we really didn't know what we were doing, emptying streamers, nothing. It was just throw a dry fly on, and hopefully something will come up and rise for it. Yeah. But just that's kind of how it started. And then I would say when I got into high school, I was really fishing a lot. I mean, I'd wake up in the mornings, and we had a local pond. I'd fish every morning, and I remember, actually 8th grade going into high school, I wanted to be a professional fly fisherman, but just didn't know what that looked like and how to achieve it. And then, realized like, wow, it's probably not going to do me any good or make me any money. So I should probably, pursue something different. So I went to college and did this whole college thing, had a regular 9-to-5 job. And then I would say probably about 2008, I actually owned my own landscape company with my dad, and things were kind of going south. So I sold the company, and kind of sitting there one morning trying to figure out, man, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do going forward? I have 2 young kids. I have no idea how I'm going to support anybody. And I woke up early in the morning, woke my wife up and said, hey, I'm going to go fly fishing. And she looked at me. She's like, what? Like, I hadn't been fly fishing in a while, just kind of put everything on the back burner, raising a family. Yeah. And I left, head up to Sierras, and spent the whole day. And then I remember coming back. My wife's like, man, I didn't know if you'd ever come back. And I was like, I just got lost out there. I mean, just a lot of soul searching. And I told her, I said, hey, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how it's going to support the family, but I'm going to go back into fly fishing. This is what I want to do. This is a passion of mine. And I don't know what's going to look like, but I just need to do it for myself. So she was fully supportive, and actually applied for a job at Bass Pro in Manteca. And actually, it was probably one of the hardest jobs to get a job for, which I thought would be fairly easy. But they had a test that I had to take and make sure I knew what I was talking about, knew what I was doing. But I ended up getting hired, and that's kind of where the ball started to roll. It was about 2010, and worked there for a little bit, started to do some local guiding. And my wife wanted to move to San Diego. And she goes, I don't know if you could fly fish in San Diego. And I go, honey, anywhere there's water and fish, you can fly fish for anything. So I sent some emails out, not knowing what it was going to look like or where I was going to work. And I gave my resume, and Jeff Solis reached out to me and said, hey, why don't you call Peter Piccone? I heard he's looking for somebody. So I called him up and had a couple interviews on the phone, and he said, if you can be here in 2 weeks, you got a job. So
nice.
I told my wife, I said, we're moving. So we packed up all our stuff and our kids and drove down to San Diego just for this job. And then it just kind of snowballs from there.
Yeah. And what a cool boss Peter was, huh?
Yeah, he was super cool cat. I really learned a lot from him. I mean, he really took the time in letting you evolve on your own. Like, he would just give me like tidbits of information. Like, he wouldn't, give me the keys to the kingdom yet, but he would just open it up and be like, hey, this is, like when I was fishing down in the surf, I was, hammering it, and some days just couldn't figure out what was going on. And, he would take me out and he would just like give me one nugget, and okay, then I'd go and I'd try that and figure out, what it is, how I can read the water better, detect strikes, all this stuff. And then, I just remember one day just kind of opened up for me, and I realized like, oh my gosh, they're everywhere, and now I kind of knew what I was looking for. Had, I think, a lot more confidence, but he really instilled in me to kind of search deep inside, like, hey, you have the skills to fish, and, you got to bring those up to the surface. And he really nurtured all that and taught me how to teach and how to guide, and just really hone in the professionalism of fly fishing. So, I mean, great management skills with, managing a shop, taking care of, that side of things. But yeah, he was super instrumental in getting me going, and just kind of keeping the stoke alive for me, for sure.
Peter was really cool to me too. He had me come down from Kernville here and drive down to San Diego and do a casting seminar and, do a presentation down there and stuff. And, I think I might have met you there. Is that where I met you, or were you there?
Yeah, actually, I did meet you there. You came down for one event. I remember we would have your video up on the screen, so we already knew who you were, and had some of the flies in the bin. But yeah, I met you there, and I think the second time I met you was right when I left Peter's shop, and it was IFTD, and that's kind of where the door to repping opened up for me.
Right. And was that something that you just kind of fell into, or how did that all go down?
That's another great story. So I realized that my time at the shop was coming to an end. I wanted more, and I knew that managing the shop and guiding, there's something more for me in the industry. And I remember talking to my wife, and I was like, man, I think I want to be a rep. I want to see what that's all about. And she's like, oh, why don't you go rep Sims or Sage? And I was like, I need you to understand, like, the two best reps probably in the world rep those brands, and for them to give those brands up or me to get in there, it's virtually impossible.
Yeah.
So I was up in Northern California with my family, and the IFTD shows in Vegas, and I literally made the decision the day before the event. I called Peter, said, hey, can you get me into this event? And called Jamie Lyle, who was the Sage rep at the time, and said, hey, I want to get in, and told Jamie what my plans were. And he said, hey, don't sign any contracts, come see me first. I was like, okay. So
nice.
Fly down to Vegas, find a room, the whole thing. I get signed up. I walk into IFTD. I go straight to see Jamie, and he has me sit down with some of the executives of Farbank, and he offers me a job to work with him right there. And he said, hey, I got a couple other people, but you're top of the list, and this could be a great opportunity for you. And I'm like blown away. So I remember he said, let's talk some more, throughout the show. So I go back to the hotel and walk in the parking lot, I call my wife, and I tell her, I said, hey, I just talked to Jamie. He's offered me a job to be a Sage rep. And I got emotional. And she's like, I told you, she
one
goes,
of the best reps out there.
One of those. Yeah. So, I mean, super humbled, blown away. I mean, everything you can possibly think of that was going through my mind at the time. And so he brought me on as a sub rep, and that was in 2014. And then 3 years I worked with Jamie, and then Jamie decided to move on, and Farbank hired me, and the other brands hired me to be the rep. So nice. I mean, it's in a short period of time. I couldn't believe the steps that I achieved to get to where I'm at right now. It blows me away to even talk about it.
I mean, just to get that job, and also just to eventually get those brands, that's a big accomplishment. A lot of people can't just do that.
Thank you, man.
The other thing,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, the other thing too is Jamie. I think one of the important things about being a sales rep, I'm not a sales rep, but from what I gathered from the sales reps that I do know that come into the shop, is they have these super personalities and are able to talk to all kinds of people and explain things to people very simply, and the new products and all that kind of stuff. And Jamie must have seen that in you, your personality and your kindness, but also your friendliness to folks, and thought that you would be a good addition to his business for sure.
Yeah, it was really cool, man. And I get these questions all the time, from different people in the industry. I'm like, how does it happen? How do you get the job like this? And the only thing I keep telling them, I said, I think it's just my passion for the sport, and my passion and my drive that got me here. There wasn't a backup plan. I just, when you have a goal and you're motivated, and you just go for it. You just keep moving forward. And I'm like, well, I don't know what the next step is, but you just trust that something cool is going to happen. And it just kept happening. So I just keep riding that, that same mentality, like just keep charging forward for whatever you want. So
for sure,
that's the only advice I could give these people. I'm like, I don't know what else to tell you, but just give it all that you have, and good things will come from it.
I think also too, like the good sales reps that I see, are super knowledgeable and are really into their products and can help fly shops or sporting stores, sporting goods stores, to sell their products, and they're real knowledgeable about marketing and all that kind of stuff. And I've learned a lot from you, just on all kinds of stuff, whether it's spay casting, the lines that go with wet rods, and all the different. I mean, Rio comes out with this giant book of all these different lines every year, and you're just like, oh my God. And so, you definitely help all of us small fly shops with that stuff for sure.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. I mean, we're all partners in this, and we're all here to, to move forward and make a living. And I mean, when you guys succeed, I succeed, and I love it. That's my favorite thing to do. And I think, for like what you do, you're, Gaijin School of Fly Fishing. I mean, you're a natural born teacher, and, being able to express all that to, the amounts of people that you put through your schools. I mean, it's huge. It's a testament to you and your personality and your love for, stoking people out. And that's the way I look at it. We're all here to help each other. And, I made some wonderful friends, including you. I wish I could be there on the river with you and doing this in person, but I know our time will come. But it's a great industry to be in, and, a lot of good people. And it seems like everybody, wants to help each other out. And I just at a show a demo day this last weekend, and I met up with the Costa rep, who's on the optical side of things. And he was saying that he couldn't believe how friendly we all are to each other, to the other reps. He goes, like, the Oakley rep will come through and they'll just, in other words, kind of just flip each other off underneath, while they drive by. He said they just don't talk to. There's no camaraderie whatsoever. But in the fly fish industry.
No, I've seen it firsthand. I've seen, all you guys, and including myself, having beers, after shows and stuff. It's pretty common for sure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, so when you first started being a sales rep, and you had to go out to all these different shops and meet all these different people, were you pretty nervous at first?
Totally. I mean, you're just, I was so nervous, going through and seeing some of these fly shop owners that have done it for 40 years, and have seen everybody come through there, and have heard every sales pitch. Thankfully Jamie was good, and he wrote down a list and was like, okay, this guy, it's like in and out, give him the facts, get out of there. This guy here, you can have a beer, hang out with him, talk shop. So it was really helpful to get a little bit of a taste of some of these personalities. And I think it's just just kind of trial by fire. You just got to get into it and start talking to these people, and they have to push your buttons and see if you can hold your weight. But I would say it took me a good while to really feel comfortable in this position. And even to recently, I would say it seems like every year I gain a little bit more confidence, where like, hey, I'm deserving of this. Because I think for a while there, you kind of get to a certain point where, like, man, there's a lot of cool things happening. Am I supposed to, have all this? Is this the right thing? Am I deserving of it? And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that I've, had to deal with, is like, hey, you do deserve it.
So did you know a lot of people going in, or did you just kind of meet people as you went through? Going through all the shops?
I knew some people, some of the shops. I've been all up and down California, lived in several different spots. So, walking into shops. So I knew a few people, and, but I would say, most of these people were just meeting them for the first time. You knew some of the bigger ones, the people that, were notable in the fly fishing industry. But, I mean, all in all, everybody's been great. There's a lot of good fly shop owners, and everybody's got their own personality, and you just have to which one you're walking into, and how to talk to people.
For sure. So talk about what a sales rep does. I mean, what do you guys do when you go into a shop? I mean, what is it that you guys are trying to accomplish, and whatnot?
I think the biggest thing that we're trying to accomplish is every year there's new product coming out. So it's being able to showcase the new product, because you're walking into something that's been established for years. So there's fly rods, there's reels. Some of these brands have been there for a long time, and some of their staples. If you look at the Tibor reel or a Galvin reel or something like that they've just really not changed a whole lot. So you get some of these other brands that are really expanding and moving. So you start to you just take all the new information, all the new toys and bells and whistles, and you walk into a shop and just kind of let everybody know, just making them aware of what else is out there. Because sometimes you could easily be satisfied with, I just get these amount of reels to get this rod, and this is all I sell. But then there's so much new product, especially like it comes to fly lines. It's like, okay, now we have fly lines that are really specific for certain fisheries, and I need to explain all this to the dealers. Like, hey, here's some opportunity to even sell more lines,
right.
For different areas. But my job mainly consists of a lot of phone calls and emails, and checking on orders and trying to figure out how to best serve everybody and make sure that they are fully aware of everything they could possibly sell.
How many accounts do you have now? Like, and what is your area? It's California, I know that, but don't you have other states too? Or?
I do. So it's all of California, Nevada, Arizona, and Hawaii. So it's considered the Southwest Territory. And I have, when I first started, it was roughly about 65 dealers, and those are a mixture of specific fly fishing retailers as well as what we call hook and bullet. That'll be a fishing store that has, both guns, fishing, and fly fishing.
Uh-huh.
And then now that I picked up Grundens, that was a whole new set of dealers. So I'm looking at probably about 130 dealers that we call on. Yeah.
And that's all with all the states?
That's within all the states, correct.
Wow, man. And so you've gotten so busy that you've hired somebody else, right?
I did. I hired Alex Katie. He was a manager down in Southern California. So it's kind of where I started. And it seems like most of the reps that have come into this business have all been plucked from a retailer. They noticed something great about them. So I hired Alex, and he's been wonderful. He lives in Southern California, and he's got a really good pulse on conventional fishing as well as fly fishing. Mm-hmm. And he's super fishy. So, just, easy role to step into, and just, we're selling fun is what I always tell him.
So, does he cover just Southern California, or what does he cover?
Yeah. So he takes care of Bakersfield south to the border of Mexico and Southern Arizona, Southern Nevada, and all of Arizona.
Oh, okay.
And then I take care of everything north, and then Hawaii. There's not a whole lot of people over there, and with the whole COVID thing, I haven't been there, in a couple of years, but we can still be able to do business. I did some videos, and we'll do Zoom calls and just get people up to speed on what they need and how we can help them out.
So, are you guys seeing an increase in the outdoor world? I wanted to ask you, what do you feel is the state of not only the fly fishing world, but the outdoor industry? Do you think it's getting better? Do you think it's going down? What do you think?
I think it's getting better. COVID 2020 was probably the biggest year for any outdoor industry. As you guys seen it there in the fly shop, but anything you talk to, climbing stores, regular tackle stores, it's went through the roof. Everybody that was locked down wanted to get out and be outside and do something recreational. So it's definitely exploded, I would say, since 2020. I feel that it's reached its peak in the fall, and several of the reps that we powwow with when we go to sales meeting, they all feel the same, that it definitely hit its peak last fall. But overall, I think it's definitely still a positive industry to be in. I think people still want to go outside. I've been noticing more people wanting experiences. They want to go out there and have a day on the water, or some sort of destination trip or something like that. But I definitely see it's moving in the right direction. And I think we just need to continue to capture it. The biggest thing with California, and California is a very interesting state now that I'm on this side of things, and water, fire, those are huge factors when it comes to our industry. And as you know, I mean, you guys have been hit by fires down there and up north, and I'm making my tour through seeing dealers right now, and that's where some of the hesitation lies with what is the fall going to look like, or later summer when the fires hit, and then places are closed, people can't go up there, and then now we have water issues. So, but according to some of the reps that I've talked to before, and Jamie Lau, we've had some of our best years on the drought years. There's still places to fish. I mean, there's still lakes, there's still rivers and streams and ocean. There's still so much out there, and California is huge and it has a lot to offer. So I think it's just kind of rerouting people's mindset on, I can't go anywhere, what can I do? And having these different options. Like, I mean, you've done a great job with exposing, fisheries in your area as well as the surf. I mean, you're putting people on the water. Yeah, it's huge.
Are you seeing, more stores opening up, like outdoor stores or fly shops? Are you seeing fly shops closing? What are you seeing out there?
I haven't seen any. I've seen no fly shops have closed. I've seen a few open within this last couple of years, which is interesting because right during COVID, this lockdown, I've had a couple shops open. We just celebrated the second anniversary for a shop in Sonora this last weekend.
Is that Sonora Fly Shop or?
Yeah, Sonora Fly Shop.
Okay,
very cool guys.
Yeah,
beautiful shop.
I've heard that.
Yeah, so he celebrated 2 years, and
awesome.
That's a big deal. So we're definitely seeing. Yeah, it's huge, especially in this crazy environment. But we had a new shop open up in Arizona.
Cool.
I definitely get hit up. I mean, it's not like booming in any way, but there's definitely opportunity in certain parts of the state where somebody was willing to open up a shop. It will do well, and I think just putting all your effort into it. But there's a lot of room for expansion, and I'm on the conventional side. It's kind of hard to know what's new or not. I mean, there's a lot of the shops are new to me because I just don't walk into conventional shops. But haven't really heard it. I mean, there's a couple new ones opened up near the coast. But overall, I would say it is positive. I do feel very optimistic that these guys will succeed, and we'll just see more and more people get into the sport.
Yeah, like I before I opened my fly shop, I did a little tour of most of the fly shops in California. I just went on a road trip and kind of checked things out and checked shops out and checked out personalities and whatnot. One of the coolest shops and coolest people and one of the most beautiful shops I went into was Peter Picconi's in San Diego, which isn't open anymore, but I thought his shop was really beautiful for one, but also everyone that worked there was really cool. But you definitely notice going into different shops, the personalities, the welcoming personalities and the not so welcoming personalities out there for sure.
It blows me away that still happens. I'm kind of shocked when I do walk into a shop and I don't get acknowledged. It's a little interesting, especially with the world of online sales. It's like you could easily just be like, well, this guy doesn't want my business, and walk out on your phone and order whatever you want. But you're right. There's definitely a lot of personalities. But back to Peter's shop, it is definitely one of the nicest shops that was around. I mean, it was like a quintessential boutique fly shop.
Totally nice floors and just a waiter room by itself, and just oh my gosh, it was nice.
Yeah, so super inviting.
So, in your opinion, what makes a good retail shop or fly shop? I mean, what do you think? What makes the shops out there, like the good shops, work?
I feel it definitely has to come down to the owner. Having an owner that's a part of the shop that understands what's happening. The ins and outs of it. Understanding his inventory. Getting really good staff that are knowledgeable, friendly for sure. Like everybody that walks through the door, they are hey, how you doing? Let me know if you have any questions. That kind of stuff. Just you want to make those people feel that they're welcome in your shop. I think that's the biggest thing. I think when it comes down to merchandising and shop layout, that is extremely important. I feel less is more. The shops that I have noticed do the best in my territory are the shops that have narrowed down their assortment. They don't have to have every fly rod of every manufacturer because it just gets super diluted, and then you just don't know. You want to sell rods, your customer gets confused, and confused customer says no. But when you have, 2 or 3 rod companies that you can go up to the rod rack and be like, hey, what are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for a rod that, I can throw dries and nymph and all stuff. Great. Yeah. Here are the rods that are perfect for what you do. And you have 3 choices. A good, better, best is definitely what I always recommend. But I've noticed those shops that have a narrowed assortment do the best because they're not overwhelmed by all the invoices from all the other shops, or all the invoices from all the manufacturers come through, because you order a bunch of rods and then all those invoices have to come due. And if they're not turning over because they're not well-known brands or not recognized, by a lot of the customers, then you're just sitting on money on the shelf. So that's my biggest thing. It's what I try to convey to the dealers is, just simplify things and you'll see how much more money you make.
Yeah, for sure. It's only taken me 20 years, bro.
But yours is great, man. I mean, you have a great shop. And you definitely have a shop that falls in that category. I mean, you go in there, it's like, boom, Rio on the wall, 3 or 4 rods,
right?
Waders. It's like, bunch of flies. Yeah. You're doing it right, man. I definitely, your shop comes up a lot, and your approach and stuff when I talk to dealers, and when they ask me that same question, like who do you feel is, on the right path, making stuff happen. And I refer to your shop, with your fish report, your videos on Instagram, of what's happening, what's going on. I mean, you're constantly engaging your customer, which makes them always want to tune in, be like, what's Guy doing? What's happening? Right. That's what keeps you in the forefront of everybody's mind. Like, you're making stuff happen. So it's huge, man. Yeah. It's a testament to you and what you're doing.
That dude, that owns Lost Coast Outfitters too, man. That guy's rocking it too, man.
Totally. Yeah. George is his shop.
Well. Yeah.
Yeah. It's same kind of deal. I mean, he's got a really nice boutique fly shop in downtown San Francisco, and you walk in there and it's the same deal. You see, Sims brand, you see the Farbank brands on rods and reels. I mean, he's just got everything really dialed in and keeps everything simple, and he does really well.
So what's coming out new? So here's a little chance for you to kind of, talk about, your brands and what's coming out new, with, Reddington and Sage and even Rio and some of your other brands. If you want to talk a little bit about some of the cool new brands that are cool new products that are coming out for sure.
Oh yeah. So right now, the biggest one coming out of the Farbank brand, so Sage, Reddington, Rio, is the new R8 core rod from Sage. So this is the 8th iteration of a flagship rod, and actually the 8th iteration of a new graphite technology. So the R stands for revolution, and then 8 stands for, basically the 8th revolution. So this rod is a whole new blend of graphite, has a whole new resin to keep all these fibers together. So this is really a rod that's going to be an extension of your arm. This is going to be a rod that's going to have the utmost feel to it, control. I mean, a legitimate fishing tool. Mm-hmm. What I really like about it is a lot of these fast action rods, some of them can seem really stiff to people when they first put them in their hands, and everybody does a wiggle test.
Yeah.
But this rod, when you start to cast it, you'll notice that the sweet spot for where that rod bends is a lot deeper than you would think in a fast action rod. So you just really get a lot of feel right back into your hand. And I mean, effortless to cast. It's probably the rod that I have had the privilege of fishing and casting, but it's a rod that I can cast as far as I want with the least amount of effort, which I would say that of all the Sage rods, they all, a good caster can definitely put out a lot of line, not that it's needed, but this one you'll start casting. You're like, man, this rod just wants me to, keep letting more line out. It has enough power and has enough control to be able to cast long distance if you want to.
I agree. The first thing I noticed when I picked one up was how light it was. Unbelievably light. I was like, wow. And yeah, it's an amazing rod for sure. The question I get, and this comes in at the price point is $1,150, correct?
1,050.
Yeah, 1,050. Okay, so 1,050. So the question I get, and maybe you can explain this to folks out there that listen to this podcast, is, I know the answer to this, but coming from you, and you can maybe explain it simply, is like a lot of people come in to my shop and go, what's the difference between a $100 rod and a $1,000 rod? They both catch fish, don't they?
Yeah.
And I know you've heard that working in a fly shop too. But maybe you could kind of explain, kind of the difference and, why a rod would be price point at that price.
For sure.
Yeah.
A lot of it really comes down to the technology of the graphite that we're using. And I always use the analogy of a car.
Yeah.
So
that's a good one.
I can go and, take a road trip from Northern California to Southern California. I could do it in a Corvette or I could do it in a Pinot.
Right.
They're both going to get me to the same place, but one's just going to be a much better experience. So when you start getting into these higher modulus graphite rods, they become more lighter. They become responsive. And when you compare them to, say, that $100 fly rod, and you put this rod, automatically just in your hand, you're going to notice, like you said, the weight difference right off the bat. You're like, man, this one's a lot lighter. Okay, great. Let's cast this. You notice it cast, like, yeah, I can get the line out there. And then you pick up this new rod and you make a forward cast and you get more line out there. And you're like, man, I can't believe, I was able to control my loop better. I was able to get a lot more line out there. So, these technologies, they just keep improving upon themselves. Like you say, it's lighter, more responsive, more feel, from the tip of the fly all the way down into your hand. They become an extension of your body. And when you put those in fishing situations, you realize, like, oh man, I can put that fly exactly where I wanted to put it. Oh, I can do a really nice, precise mend. And the fish biting ability, like, oh, I could really protect the tip on this, on a light tippet, or I could really, give this fish the wood if it's a bigger fish and be able to hold up to all those different circumstances. So for me, it's, explaining all that to the customer and then getting the rods in their hand, having them feel, all the different, aspects of, $100 rod to $1,000 rod. And you typically, get it. Just even if it's aesthetics alone, they can see it.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I like that one, that analogy, and using the cars for sure. That's a good one,
it's just like, I'd rather be in a Corvette with air conditioning and, a nice smooth ride. It's going to make my experience a lot better. And I always tell the customers that it's like, you're going to have a great experience out there fishing. One, you're just out there anyway. That's the best part about it. Yeah. But when you have a tool that really works with you and for you, it just makes it easier. It makes it more enjoyable.
So what else is out there anything else from Sage?
Yeah. So we came out with a new reel called the Arbor XL. This is probably the largest arbor that I've seen in a reel. We make two sizes, a 4, 5, 6, and the next one is a 6, 7, 8. It's a much thinner diameter spool, but a larger arbor. So it allows you to pick up about 15% more line when you have a fish on the reel and you're winding the fish in.
Okay.
So and it really helps too with the overall memory of the line. There is memory in fly line, especially if you don't use them as often. They'll have a memory to the spool, and the smaller the spool, the tighter those memory loops are. But the bigger the spool, the less they are. So the line, becomes a lot more manageable right off the bat to be able to handle and control. But this new reel coming out, it's really sleek. It's super lightweight, and even though it has this big, large arbor, it kind of has this like a large rim of a car, like a little more of a bling, but it is a really nice reel. It's got a sealed drag system on it, so I have a trip to Belize coming up, and I'm going to take one for some bonefish. So it's a nice little light saltwater reel, but mainly a freshwater reel.
Nice. Is that out yet, or?
That one just came
dropped?
out along with just came out with the R8.
Okay.
Yeah, so totally, like just weeks old.
Okay, cool.
On the Redington side of things, we have a new pack rod that came out, and this is called the Trailblazer. It's a 6-piece rod, so great for anybody heading out to the backcountry. A lot of the backpackers that just want something really lightweight, something they can just put together, and it's not going to take up a whole lot of room.
Nice.
So we have two sizes in that. We have a 3-weight and a 5-weight in the 6-piece offering. And, for a rod being 6 pieces,
That's cool.
Casts unbelievable. Like, I mean, just a really good smooth casting rod.
What's that price point come at?
$250.
And I wanted to ask you real quickly, the Sage Arbor XL reel you were just talking about, what does that come in at?
That comes in at $450 for the smaller version, the 456, and $475 for the 678.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
And we have two color options.
Okay.
And then on the Redington side of things, for all the glass fanatics out there, we have brought out the 3rd version of our butter stick.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, super cool. We went back to a 4-piece rod. The last iteration was a 3-piece rod. So now we have 4-piece butter stick. Went back to that butter look, that nice yellow, kind of pale yellow look. And what's cool about this rod, you take it out in the sunlight and it has that translucent, kind of that old school fiberglass look where it looks like you can see right through.
Nice.
But the technology on those fiberglass rods has changed so much. I mean, the first fiberglass rod I had, the thing weighed a ton.
Right.
And they're super lightweight. They changed the action a little bit on the butter stick. I feel it still has that soft feel to it, but it definitely feels just a tad bit stiffer. So, get a little bit of wind in your face. You still have, good enough power behind you. It doesn't feel like a total noodle. Just a really good casting dry fly rod. So I'm actually going to take it out this weekend and hopefully get some rising fish.
Sweet. And is the Trailblazer kind of a medium action rod?
Yeah, I'd classify it as a medium action rod for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any new reels for Redington or anything else new?
On the Redington, we just added some more colors. So zero reel, we've added a matte black and a called the Silver Fox.
Okay.
Gray Fox. I can't remember the name right now, but yeah, just two different color options on the zero, and then we added a bronze color for the Behemoth reel.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that. Awesome. And then what about Rio? What's going on with Rio?
So Rio, yeah. The biggest thing with Rio is our new slick cast technology. So that's a whole new coating that they developed. It's the slickest casting fly line out in the market right now. It's the most durable, slickest line that's available to anybody. As soon as you put one of these new lines that has that slick cast coating on there, you'll notice it right off the bat. I mean, the line just shoots through the guides with zero effort.
Okay.
So you really get, a lot more distance. You just instant feedback to the caster that, they can get some line out without having any trouble whatsoever. Even if you're a marginal caster, your line's going to move. Floats really high on the water and it's got this nice coating where you really don't pick up a whole lot of grit and sand, which makes it nice. I mean, that's kind of the start to the demise of a fly line when they start getting really dirty. And these, I always recommend you want to clean lines, but these are going to last a lot longer, even when not doing anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, we added a lot of our lines that are already in the lineup are converting to this slick cast, but some of the new lines that came out for this year, there is a line called the Dog Days, and it's basically it's a Dog Days gold line. So it's a real gold taper, but it has a more of a warm water core and coating to it. So in those days, as you know, in Southern California, especially out where you guys are at, you can get 100 degrees And some of these freshwater lines, as soon as it gets really hot or you're fishing from a boat or anything like that, they'll get a little gummy. I mean, they can't, they'll still perform, but not perform at their peak when it gets super hot. So we decided to, or Rio, I would say, decided to create a line that's going to stand up to those hot temperatures. And we have that available at a 4, 5, and 6. Talking to Alex Cady, who's a big carp guy, he's like, that's his carp line. He goes, that's going to be my new warm water carp line.
Really? Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. So that line's available. And then for a mid-priced line, our Avid series of fly lines, we have come out with our Avid Gold and Avid Grand. So now this is what I'm going to consider a premium fly line in that $70 range.
Okay.
It's a really good price point. I mean, most of these lines now are $100 or $130.
Yep.
So you're getting the gold tapered fly line or grand tapered fly line for $70. It does come with the slick cast coating on it. Comes with loops at both ends. And the reason why we're able to drop the price down to make it a little more affordable for people who are, wanting to upgrade but not, spend $100.
Yep.
We just shortened the fly line to 80 feet instead of 90 or 100 feet. And we made it one color so we don't have some of our other attributes of our premium and elite lines where they have sure cast on their or line identification. So we just stripped down a few things and just made it real simple, but that's a new line coming out and it's available now.
So that's, you said it was only 80 feet or 88 feet?
80 feet.
80 feet. Okay. Now that makes sense, right? Because when you're fishing for trout and, other species, you're not getting all the way into your backing too many times.
Right.
That's
totally
super smart.
Yeah. And I think it's a great line, when you have a customer come in and say he buys a path outfit or a crosswater outfit or even the topo where it comes with a mainstream style fly line, which is a great line to get started. But I always tell people, it's like, as soon as you feel comfortable fly fishing and, you're ready to do an upgrade your line and that whole outfit becomes totally different. So now somebody who, just getting into the sport doesn't want to spend a whole lot of money. They already spent $200 on an outfit and say a couple of years later, like, hey, or even right then and there, you can be like, hey, this is going to make your fly fishing experience even better. Spend an extra $70 and you get a premium fly line. And, it makes it a little bit more digestible, I think, when you start looking at, the prices of lines up, or even upgrading a rod or anything like that. So I think it's a really good mid-priced fly line that's going to do well in our market.
I think so too. That's great. I didn't know that about the Avid series. And that's brand new, right?
That is brand new. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. Learning stuff too. Awesome.
Yeah. That's the way it should be.
Any other lines that are coming out that you want to talk about, like in a sinking line world, or any of those shooting heads or anything?
Not so much the shooting head line. I think some of the upgrades that we made to an existing line that we had as our outbound short. Okay. We've gone to triple density lines, which I really like. So typical shooting head line, you have 30, 35 feet of a shooting head, and then that connection goes right into an intermediate running line.
Okay.
So on some of those heavier sink lines, if I was to draw it on a piece of paper, I would draw the intermediate line at fairly level in the water column, and then you have this shooting head that just drops down super fast. So you kind of get this kind of sharp angle, which is fine, and we've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
But now they're making these triple density heads, which we've come out with, and we have them even in spay heads. So what they do is they transition down to the tip much nicer. That gives you more of a level, more of a straight line to your fly instead of a hinge to it. So our outbound shorts will have the floating hover intermediate. So you'll have intermediate or a floating line, and then it'll go to a hover line and then go to an intermediate tip. So there's just more of a step down to the connection to the fly.
And now, are those called the outbound shorts? And it's like
correct.
Yeah, new version of the outbound short.
The new version, yeah. So it has a slick cast coating, and then we just added the triple density to the head of it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then another new line that came out is a predator line. And this is a freshwater line, great for bass fishing, topwater trout. It's a great streamer line too, because it's a floating running line. And then the head will just step down however you want. You can get straight floating, or you can go floating hover intermediate, and go floating intermediate S3. And you have all these different sink rates that you can play with, but still have that floating line. So if you are fishing in a river, something that you want to be able to mend and just be able to control your line, those lines are great for that. And I've been using that Predator floating line for bass. It's 2 line sizes heavier, so it's not as aggressive as the outbound short, which is almost 3 line sizes heavier. So this is it turns over big flies with no problem, cuts through the wind. But if you wanted something that just wasn't as aggressive as an outbound short, that Predator line's been pretty money.
Can you explain what you mean by it's lines heavier?
Sure.
Yeah.
So
I know a lot of people don't know what that means.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So there are a standard of grain weights for every fly line made, from 0 weight to 16 weight.
Yeah.
And I don't know when this standard was developed, but if I were to guess, it's probably 60 years old.
Yeah.
Or more, 70 years old. And it's called the AFMA standards. So just to make things simple, so a 5 weight is 142 grains to 148 grains, I think.
Okay.
It's right in there. There's like a 6 grain swing.
Okay.
But so if you get a 5 weight and you were to cut off the first 30 feet of the head and put it on a scale, it would range between 142 to 146 grains for that 30-foot section. So the way that this was developed was like, okay, that those were the amount of grains that when you were to make a cast of 30 feet, that it has enough grains to bend the fly rod and make a cast. And every rod weight has a grain window.
Right.
So we still refer back to those AFMA standards. So like I said, if it's 146 grains at the top end of a 5 weight, and I say it's 2 line sizes heavier. So when you look at that AFMA standard and you go, okay, a 6 weight is 146 to 152, and 7 weight is 152 to 159 or somewhere in there. I don't know the exact numbers.
Yeah.
The grain weight would fall under the window of a 7 weight.
Right. Okay.
So that's how we would say, oh, it's 2 line sizes heavier.
Got it. So when
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So when you're saying that the Predator is a 5 weight, it's really 2 lines heavier than a 5 weight. Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason why is, so these AFMA standards were developed, like I said, 60, 70 years ago or whatever. And the rods that were being made at that time were much softer rods. I mean, they weren't making fast action rods then. Sage was the first one to develop this fast action rod because, we wanted a rod that has more power, cast further. And so even though the AFMA standards never changed, but the rod manufacturer and the rod tapers, they've all changed. The line manufacturers had to make lines in order to bend these rods, and now we're throwing, flies that they probably weren't throwing 50, 60 years ago. We're throwing articulated and barrel eyes and more lead and all this other stuff. So having these lines that, one, are going to load the rod that you're using it on, a fast action stiff rod, and then sometimes the way these lines are tapered, being able to turn over a big wind resistant fly. So these will have to, these lines that we're making now are just breaking the AFMA standards because, like I said, there is a place for it, and some of the rods that are out in the market, and even some of the rods that we develop, there are lines that you want to have that grain window exactly to match your rod, but there's outbound shorts and predators that I'll throw on Rio Predator or Reddington Predator rod, or throw on a Sage Igniter that is going to be able to handle 2.5 lines or more heavier.
Right. It's going to bend that. It's going to bend the heck out of that rod, that Predator.
Yeah.
Let's say the Redington Predator, which is pretty stiff, fast action rod, and then putting on, like if you're using a 5-weight Predator, and then you put on a 5-weight Predator line, this new line, it's really going to be able to bend that rod real nicely.
Exactly.
Yeah, got it.
So, and it like I said, I mean, not to make it any more confusing, but Simon Gosworth has a good video out there from Rio. You could probably find it on YouTube, but he talks about grain weights.
Yeah.
And he goes into, okay, so you have 30 feet that is, say, 146 grains, and you're casting that 146 grains on a 5-weight. As soon as you let 5 more feet of line out, now that 5-weight line has become a 6-weight line because you have more of the head out there. So even though the rod hasn't changed, you've added more grain weight by more line out of the tip of the rod. You add another 10 feet and you're at a 7-weight line, and that rod can still handle it. So I try not to focus too much on the grain weights, but just like certain things when I'm talking about a Predator line or an outbound short is letting you know, like this line is meant to load a fast action rod, throw big heavy clousers, wind resistant flies. It's heavy for that reason, just to be able to perform that way.
So I just recently got back from Mexico. We were just kind of right above Belize, and so we were using 8, 9, and 10-weight rods, but we overlined the rods by one weight for sure, just to be able to punch them through the wind and get out a little bit further. On those fast action rods, it made a huge difference.
Oh yeah, totally.
Just to overline those rods a little bit,
Yeah, sure. and they can handle it. The rods that we make now, you'll be surprised on how they can handle a serious bend in the rod. So every time we go do our sales meetings for Farbank up on Bainbridge Island, they'll do some really cool casting events just for the reps of, they call them the Rep Olympics. And one of the competitions that we have over there is they put a 10-weight fly line on a 3-weight rod, and you got to see how far you can cast that 10-weight line. And as soon as you take back the 10-weight line on a 3-weight rod, I mean, you feel like the rod's going to just break. I mean, it just bends the rod so much. So you have to really slow down and let that rod fully bend in order to create a good loop and get the fly line out. And then we'll do it on the opposite, where we'll put a 3-weight line on a 10-weight rod. So now you have to carry so much line in order to even bend that rod because the line is so light.
Yeah.
So it's like you would never want to do it, but just to show you how these rods, I mean, you can make them bend and make a cast. It's not ideal, but they'll handle it.
Any other lines that you want to talk about?
Let's see, on the fish pond side of things, we have a lot of our new submersible fabric that has just came out. So we've had a line of submersible packs and bags that have done really well. It's called the Thunderhead series, and they just upgraded their fabric. So what's great about the fabric is we use what's called EcoNil. So it is a repurposed nylon. So they're able to take old commercial fishing nets that will basically just never break down and melt all that nylon down, repurpose it, and make some textiles with it. So they're able to create a really nice, durable, hard fabric, and tape it up and seam it up and make a 100% waterproof pack and bag with it. So we've come out with a tighter weave on our pattern. So looks like a really nice, smooth, clean surface and extremely durable, like I said, for any, foul weather conditions. And we went with the True Zip zipper, which is that self-healing zipper instead of a tooth zipper. Just a nice self-healing zipper. So it's a waterproof, watertight zipper. That's some of the new stuff from Fish Pond.
Nice. What about Rep Your Water? You got any other new stuff in there? Those guys have some really cool hats, and
I know.
yeah,
They're such a great company.
Yeah, they got some really cool hats. They got a bunch of new ones, probably.
Yeah, so they've expanded on more into the apparel side of things, which I'm excited about. I mean, their species specific hats or region specific hats do really well, and then they have really started to, like I said, step into that apparel world and more gift items. So one of the newest sun shirts that came out is their Merino wool blend sun shirt. So Merino wool is, it's a natural fabric, which is great. It really keeps you warm when it's cool out, and it has cooling properties when it's hot out. So it's a really good dual purpose base layer, or even if it's just an outer layer in the sun. So it offers you sun protection, which is nice, UPF 50, and then allows for you you to breathe when you start, say like fishing in Mexico or, anywhere where it gets warm and you just want to have that sun protection, but still want to be able to have a breathing garment. So that's new, and that's new for Rep Your Water this year. And they have a bunch of cool gift items like whiskey tumbler glasses and beer mugs and camp mugs. But yeah,
sweet.
It's a great company.
Well, you said you're going to Belize?
Yeah, so I've never been, and I'm leaving on. Yeah, I'll be there May 19th. We have a sales meeting, which is pretty cool. To be able to go there and fish and do some work. Yeah.
Oh, so you're stoked, man. That's awesome.
Oh, dude, I'm so stoked. Yeah. When they sent the email out, I had to check the date and make sure it wasn't April 1st. Like, are you guys, pulling our leg here? Yeah. But no, they were like, yeah, the company's doing extremely well, and we've expanded into conventional fishing because it's a 110-year-old company that is really focused a lot of their efforts on commercial offshore fishing. And now they're sponsor of the Major League Bass Tour. And now we're stepping into the fly market. We're going to be coming out with some boots and waders and some really cool stuff.
Who's that? Is that
for Grundens?
Grundens, yeah. Sweet, man.
Very cool. So super excited about that. So yeah, we have a sales meeting over there, and we have a couple days of fishing and a couple days of meetings. But yeah, I'm just excited to.
What lodge are you going to?
El Pescador Lodge.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Right on, man. Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, I've never been, so super stoked.
It was cool. We were in Ixtlac, Mexico, and then we would actually go down into Belizean waters, and it was
it's right there.
It's right, they were right next to each other, so that was really cool, man. Yeah, what a neat place, and you're gonna have a blast. Knowing you,
I can't wait,
and how fishy you are. I often tell people about the trip we went on to Mexico, fishing for big bass, which was a blast.
It was the best.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun with John Sherman and Zach from the fly shop, Zach Thurman from the fly shop in Redding, and what a cool trip that was.
Oh man, I can't wait to get back. I was just talking to Zach about it. We need to plan that trip back. That was a lot of fun.
It was so cool, man. Just the people too. The guides were cool, and just the fishery was amazing, and the fish were big, and the company was great. So yeah, I'd love to do that again.
I was just telling somebody about the trip the day that you and I had when we were up at this last demo event. We were talking about Mexico, and I was like, man, Guy and I just hit it perfect. We just had this window where it was just, the average fish was like 6 pounds. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was just bam, awesome, bam.
It was such a good day.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Right on.
Awesome.
Well, Alex, thanks, man, for being on the podcast and sharing your knowledge and all that, man. You're just such a great guy, and really appreciate it, brother.
No problem, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's great always chatting with you. And your podcast is awesome, dude. I love listening to it. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Great people.
You gave me an idea. I think that we're going to have to do something like this every time, you're showcasing new products. I'll have you on the podcast, and we'll talk about the new products coming out, man, because people want to hear about that stuff.
I agree, man. I would love to actually get down there. We should set some up when the new. We'll have some more stuff coming out. Obviously, maybe by the end of the year or first of next year, and just set something up. It'd be great to get on the water and then come and talk about it after.
Oh, absolutely, man. Awesome, man. Well, brother,
Fantastic.
Thanks so much, man. And we'll talk to you real soon, I'm sure.
Sounds good. All right, man.
All right,
Thanks
buddy.
for having me.
Take care, bro.
All right.